really something else. I didn't know, I was just talking to Jeffrey about this, who's the co-curator of this exhibition. I didn't know that potatoes is like a thing, but it's like really inspiring to not just artists and writers and filmmakers and whatnot, but also to like regimes, like state regimes, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So, I mean, my presentation today, it's like a discursive analysis of the theme of potatoes across literature. So I'm going to look at the evolution of potatoes and its potato as a symbol and its significance and its meaning, starting from Korean literature, like Kim Tongin short story 감자, which is potato in Korean proper, but actually in Pyeongangdo, which is where he's from. He's from Pyongyang, North Korea, before Korea split. In that dialect, it's actually sweet potato. Kamja is sweet potato. So I'll get into that a little bit more, but let's just start with kamja then. Kamja means potato in Korean, again in Korean proper, but in Pyeongangdo dialect, it's sweet potato. And I chose very deliberately to entitle this book, well, this collection, which was potatoes or kamja. I decided very deliberately to call it sweet potato because although this piece was translated a numerous bunch of times, because kamja was a short story, it was translated into English like multiple times, but they always refer to it as potatoes or potato, even though everybody knew that in Pyongyang, kamja is sweet potato. So I was like, well, why not just acknowledge that, So I just wanted to switch things up and mix it up, so I just call it sweet potato, right? Yeah, and I got to translate this work out of the request of Anthony Bird over in London. There's a small publishing company out there called Hanford Star. They just started very recently, and they're really doing interesting work, translating across, I think, Asian literature. And I think this was one of their first book projects, and they approached me and they asked me to translate some of Kim Tongin short stories. Does anybody study modern Korean literature here, or Korean literature at all? Has anybody read a Korean book in translation? You have, kind of? What have you read?
Like short excerpts, really just not a whole novel.
Oh, really? Who's the author?
I don't remember.
Can't remember. Maybe a Kim something or a Park something, right? No, but I mean, Kim Tongin, he's a very significant modernist, and I want to talk about him just a little bit. So he was born in 1900, turn of the 21st century, right? And it's just 5 years before Korea became a protectorate of Japan, and 10 years before Korea was annexed by Japan, right? And he grew up during the colonization period of Korea, which was from 1910 to 1945. And then he died in 1951, right, smack during the Korean War. So he lived in a very interesting time, right? So, during this period, in the early 1900s, a lot of somewhat well-off, upper middle class men, usually men, would fly over to Tokyo. Some would even go to Russia and China and Germany, and they would study Western European culture and movement. So they would learn about realism and naturalism. They would learn about communism, socialism, democracy, capitalism, and a lot of these Korean intellectuals were getting it from Japan, because Japan was trying to modernize. And since Korea was a colony of Japan, this modernization effort was kind of spilling over into the Korean colony. Right? So Kim Tongin studied in Tokyo, and a lot of Korean literary scholars. I'm not a Koreanist, by the way. I don't do Korean literature or film, although my specialization is in Korean TV. I'm a PhD candidate in cinema media studies, so I'm more like a dilettante, whereas Koreanists are very kind of homed in on the Korean history and literature and whatnot. But a lot of Korean literary scholars kind of pit Kim Tongin against this very prominent Korean modernist author named Lee Kwang-soo. And Lee Kwang-soo is kind of known for producing what's called didactic literature. So literature with this social reform effort behind it, with instructional, educational value, right? So Lee Kwang-soo said literature should not be anything but educational and informative, to get people to mobilize for a cause. Whereas Kim Tongin was on the other side, and he said, no, literature is art, It should be for art's sake, right? So that's how the Korean literary scholars sort of pit them, side by side. But I'm going to talk about maybe how Kim Tongin also has somewhat of a instructional motivation with his stories, and I'll get into that a little bit as we do more like analysis of stories. So this is the book Kamja, which came out, this book came out in 1935, but the short story Kamja was published in 1925 in a literary magazine called 조선문단. And it's a very bleak tale, and I'll give you a description of it. But it's been translated, it's a significant work, so it's been translated multiple times. You have it by Im-Shik Kang, you have it by Im Suk-chin, Kevin O'Rourke, Charles Rosenberg, and Peter H. Lee, and again, it's always like potatoes. But it's like, again, they all know, like everybody kind of knows that Kamja means sweet potato in North Korea. So, in order to sort of produce this awareness and just sort of lay it down, like in the title, I just made this very deliberate choice to call it sweet potato. And actually, I made the decision somewhat last minute. But so the artist had actually drawn potatoes up there, and she like sent out a tweet like on Twitter saying like, why did they call it sweet potato when I painted a bunch of potatoes? You know what I mean? But I think this sort of clash is quite beautiful, because up until now, even though everybody knew that Kamja means sweet potato in North Korea, they kept calling it potato, right? Just the regular potato. So the book cover does an acknowledgement of both of those things, right? This sort of, duality or what have you here. So I thought it looked nice, and I'm not the only one who cares about that. So this short story was adapted into a film in 1968 by Kim Tongin, and he does the same thing. So who speaks or reads Korean here? Hangul. What does it say here in the big letters? Kamja, which is potato, right? And then what does it say in the middle? Yeah, it says goguma, which is sweet potato. So even the filmmaker cared enough to put in the opening credit, the title credit, both of those things, right? So I was like, okay, like he's down, why were they down, right? So yeah, I was excited to finally, have it acknowledged as sweet potato. So I kind of want that to catch on. So I'll give you a description of this story. It's really very bleak. So it's story time, right? I'll just give you the whole story in case you haven't read it or heard of it. So there's this girl named Ongya, and she was born into like a farmer's family. But her father was from like noble birth, right? So Korea had like a class society, right? But her father kind of lost his status, lost his wealth. But he raised his daughter Ongya with all of that, elite Confucian values, like morals of like, the noble family. Just raised her like a good, proper daughter, right? And then Ongya gets sold, which is, common. She gets sold into marriage. It's like, all right, bye, my daughter, good luck. Be faithful to your husband, have a good life with your husband, right? And she gets married to this much older man who is incredibly lazy. And this theme of a very lazy husband who like drives his wife to like complete and utter madness is like a thing. It's like a thing in modernist Korean literature. So anyway, like her husband is so lazy, like he keeps getting kicked out of jobs or from the homes that they're living in, and they end up becoming beggars, right? And Ongya, who's like 17 at this age, she starts begging on the streets, and people are just like, what are you doing? Like, you have like 4 limbs, and you're a young woman, and you have a pretty face. Like, why are you begging on the streets, right? And she's like, like, how do I do this, and how do I become this breadwinner? She's very economically motivated because she wants to support her husband. And then one day, she gets hired by a company that hires a bunch of local poverty-stricken women to go climb up ladders and catch moth larvae in the pine trees. So it's like a job, right? And so she's like working really hard, climbing the ladders, doing the thing, and then she notices that there are a bunch of women who are kind of lounging around, not doing any work, but they're getting paid more than she is. And she's just like, what is that about, Like, that's so strange and odd. And then one day, the supervisor, who's a man, comes to her and says, can you come over here? And she's like, oh, like, what do you mean? And he's just like, just come over here, and he like takes her with a hill. And then he has sex with her, right? And then from that point forward, she starts getting paid just as much as those women who are lounging around and doesn't do any work. And from that point on, she's just like, you know what, I thought if I sleep with another man, if I commit adultery, that I will just like die, like, you know, I'll just be struck dead. But apparently it's like not that big a deal. So she starts to prostitute herself all over town, just starts sleeping with beggars, like, you know, just anybody with some money, just like pours herself out, right? And then one day, you know, the moth catching, the larva catching job kind of runs dry, and she's just like, okay, I have to feed my husband, what do I do? She goes to this Chinese man's garden, Mr. Wang's garden, and steals sweet potatoes. And then she gets caught. And then Mr. Wang says, you're coming home with me. And then Mr. Wang starts having sex with her. And her husband, Bunya's husband, knows that Wang is having sex with her for money. But her husband kind of like more or less pimps her out. Okay? And then one day, Wang gets married. He's like, all right, I need to settle down. I need to stop, you know, like hooking up with, you know, just random girls. And he decides to settle down with a younger girl. And Bunya hears this and becomes incredibly jealous. She's like, what is that about? You know, like I thought I was your girl. And she goes over to Wang's house while the bride is there, and she's like, you know, like trying to flirt with him or whatever, and he's just like not having it, right? And she becomes so enraged, like just so like upset, and she grabs a sickle. Do you guys know what a sickle is? It's that, in case you don't know what it is. It's a little image. She grabs a sickle and comes after him, and then he intercepts, swipes her across the neck, and she dies, and she's just outside on his like yard for 3 days, not buried, just a dead body. And then there's this negotiation that goes on between Wang and her husband. They keep going back and forth, back and forth. There are these talks, and then Wang gives away some money to the husband and hires an herbalist, not a doctor. The herbalist comes, looks at the body, and says she died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Okay, and then she gets buried in a public burial site. That's the end of the story. How cheerful, right? What a joyful story. So, Potato in this story is very obviously about sorrow, a woman's feelings of sorrow and injustice, her feelings of frustration, also poverty, right? I mean, in Korea, you don't eat potatoes. That's not your staple food. Like, what is the staple food in Korea? Rice. Yeah, it's rice. Koreans love rice. They have a saying, you know, you live by the strength that you get from rice. Koreans love rice. So potatoes are like the alternative. It's the fallback food when you don't have any rice. So poverty and suffering and sorrow, all of that is connected to potatoes from the story that came out in the 1920s. Now, the reason why I said that Kim Tongin is more or less kind of like Lee Kwang-soo is because his story, the arc of his story, you could tell that like Bongya, who was a righteous young woman, one day decides to pour herself out, and then she is punished for it, right? Kim Tongin kills her at the end, right? And this concept of the fallen woman is very, very common. It was not just common in like, well, I mean, Kim Tongin was influenced from like European literature, of course, but this was a thing in British and American and European literature from the 19th century. This concept of a deviant woman, right, who becomes punished for her sins being enjoying sexuality or being, you know, like having sexual relations with more than one man. Like that deviance is always punished. Okay, so this is a trope of the fallen woman. If you're interested in what this is about, you should read Leah Jacobs' book called The Wages of Sin. This is about American Hollywood cinema, and it's like, you know, about the production code and whatnot, and how like the American Production Code Administration from the 1930s all the way up to the 1960s, they would, you know, basically write in, like, these guys would write into the script, like, oh, you can't put this in, like, this has, like, immorality, this is not good, like, this woman should be punished because she's a deviant lady, da-da-da-da-da. So, Bongya is an example of a fallen woman, right? So, if you think about it, Kim Tongin is offering some kind of instructional value with his story. All the other literary scholars, they say, well, like, Kim Tongin doesn't have any intention to, like, you know, give us any moral instruction, but I'm like, I would say from a feminist critique, Kim Tongin is very obsessed with a woman's virtues of chastity and whatnot. He is, and it comes up again and again. If you check out that collection, Sweet Potato, you're gonna see that. It comes up over and over again. This is a clip from that film that I just talked about. So it came out in 1968, and I just want to show you the ending sequence. And how it's slightly different. Well, I'll just tell you, it's slightly different in the sense that the Chinese man, Mr. Wang, in the film, there is no clarity, there's no clear-cut narrative of the fact that like Wang is actually having sex with her. Wang just shows up to Bongya one day and says, your husband owes me a lot of money, but he's like run away, and she's just dealing with that. So it's not clear that they were having sex, but I just want to show you the visual sequence of what this is like.
동료, 세상에서
죽어라! 왕서방 이놈 죽어라! 이놈, 너 날 그렇게 못살게 굴고 인제 누굴 지경을 보낸다고! 이놈아! 죽어라! 죽어라 이놈! 이놈아!
우리 정말 사요.
이놈아! 모두 내가 잘못한 거야. 날 살려줘. 나 죽기 싫어, 어머니. 나 죽고 나면 이제 그 빚은 갚은 셈이 되겠지. 살아보고 타고 그처럼 바둥대더니 참 복녀 나이 아깝다. 그 인물은 어쩌고 꽃 같은 나이에 채 피워보지도 못하고 오죽 한인들 많을까. 한 푼 두 푼 모아 논도 사고 밭도 사고 아들 딸 낳아서 우리 못해본 공부도 시켜가며 여보 우리도 한번 남부럽지 않게 살아봐요. 네? 그만 주무시고 이제 일이라도 좀 해보세요. 나도 발벗고 나설 테니. 아니 이 양반이 밤새 어딜 가시고 안 오시나. 세상에 어디서 복녀 같은 색시를 구하겠소. 남편 진빚에 쪼들리고 헛소문에 시달리면서도 남편 원망 한마디 않고 남편 다치세라 제 목숨으로 방패했으니 시집을 잘못 가면은 여자 팔자란 다 그런 것이지만서도 에휴 우리 복녀 가엾어라.
how much the ending sequence really like homes in on the husband. So this is a husband, you know, he's like hearing her, I mean the Bunya's like voiceover. You know, it's like taken from clips throughout the film, but she's just saying like, you know, oh, like when we get, I mean, now that we're married, let's have children, and let's like live happily ever after. And then throughout, you know, she's becoming more and more frustrated with it, like, where's my husband? Where's he at? Like, why can't you go get a job? Why are you lazy? And then this guy was just like such a scumbag, you know, throughout the whole film. All he did was like lays about at home, you know, just not working, you know, making his wife go out and, you know, use her body to bring in the income. And suddenly, at the end of this movie, we're really dwelling on the husband's crisis, moment of crisis of masculinity, right? It's like, well, I mean, what good is regret? You know, he should have done good while she was still around, right? But it's interesting how suddenly the motif of potatoes, which belonged to the frustration and sorrow of a woman, is now in this film interpreted into this moment of crisis of masculinity. You know, so it takes on another dimension. So it's not only about poverty and sorrow and a female injustice or female frustration, but it's also about a man coming to not being able to come to terms with like why he did what he did. You know. So I found that quite interesting. And Potato was made into another film in 1987. And this is a much more erotic film. Okay, it's by Kim Tongin, starring Kang Soo-yeon, who's known for doing quite a number of erotic films. But she's an icon. She's really amazing. But in 1987, which was still during the Chun Doo-hwan era, so Chun Doo-hwan, because he was more or less like a military dictator of South Korea in the 80s, he had this policy called the 3S policy, which was for screen, sex, and sports. And he basically said, okay, put as much entertaining media as you can out there so that people will be distracted by the fact that I'm murdering my own civilians. You know, people who are demonstrating on the streets, students who are demonstrating on the streets, we would literally shoot them down and kill them, or find them and torture them and, you know, do this investigation of are you a communist or whatnot. But, you know, all the civilian suffering, you know, he wanted to create a distraction of it by putting out as many erotic films as he could out there, along with sports and other things. So that's when this film comes out. And Michelle Cho, who's over at McGill University, and she's a film scholar, a Korean film scholar, she writes that Pyon's adaptation of Potato, the filmmaker portrays Bongyo's enjoyment of sex, materialism, and her own agency in relations with men. And Michelle Cho writes, this is quote, Pyon's film presents a male fantasy that places the responsibility for Bongyo's fate not on patriarchal oppression, but on her own avarice, and in the process cements the association between the feminine, the irrational, and the venal. So it's even though this film is catered towards the male gaze, right? You see Kang Soo-yeon and all of her gorgeous, you know, feminine glory, meaning her entire naked body, which is catered towards the male gaze. But because Bongyo in this adaptation, in this interpretation, because she enjoys her sexual engagement, because she enjoys sex, she's still punished for that, right? So again, we're coming back to this trope of the fallen woman, and she needs to be punished, right? But she's not just punished for being sexually, you know, I don't know, just being more carnal. She's also punished for being materialistic, for enjoying, you know, making money and buying things and such. So the woman herself, the protagonist herself, is the villain to her own self, and she brings her own self down, right? And that's, I think, an interesting twist on this time-old story. And then in 2010, Jang Chul-soo made a film called Bedeviled. Has anybody seen this film, Bedeviled? It's a really good movie. I really strongly recommend it. It came out in 2010, and it's a loose adaptation of Kamja and this version of Kamja. And this is more or less like a female revenge story, right? So up until now, like, you know, poor Bongyo, like, she keeps getting screwed by her society, but she never like does anything about it, right? And she grabs a sibling, tries to kill one, but she ends up getting killed, right? But this takes this revenge fantasy, a female revenge fantasy, and just like puts it out there. And I found it quite interesting, and suddenly Potatoes takes on a whole other dimension. So I want to show you a clip of this. It is a bit graphic, so just trigger warning in advance.
우리 노래 한 자리 해주세요. 세워라 내워라 오고 갈 길을 말어라 아까운 내 청춘 다 늙어간다 아리아리랑 스리스리랑 아라리가 났네 아리랑 아라리가 났네 네가 달라서 일색이라 못나서 박색이로구나 아리아리랑 쓰리쓰리랑 아라리가 났네 아리랑
태양을 한참 째려봤더니 말을 하대. 참말. 참으면 병 생긴다네.
Yeah, so she went mad because the whole village was, or the whole island was exploiting her. And all of these elderly women were part of this like toxic masculinity, this oppressive toxic masculinity. None of the women helped her, you know, this other woman in time of need. And this Punya, this version of Punya had lost her daughter, was killed in a tragic accident. And so she just loses her mind and starts taking revenge, right? So you can see here that Potatoes takes on that female revenge dimension now, right? We're in 2010, and this reinterpretation of Potatoes, both the story and the films, it's like the redemptive fallen woman, right? The fallen woman has now redeemed herself and found her revenge. Now I want to move on to a different part of Potatoes, I guess, being Potatoes. There's a film that came out in 2012 called Chisu. Chisu means potato. Okay, so again, Korea has many, many dialects, right? That's what we're slowly starting to realize. There's many dialects. Korea, you know, yeah, they speak one native tongue, but it's very, very diverse. And especially in Jeju Island, which is where this film is set. The filmmaker is from Jeju Island, and all the cast members and crew members are also from Jeju. In Jeju-do, you call potatoes chisu. And this film, it screened at the Sundance Film Festival in 2013 and won the World Cinema Dramatic Grand Jury Prize. And yeah, I mean, has anybody been to Jeju-do? Yeah, it's more or less like the Hawaii of Korea or whatever. You know, they like grow their palm trees there. It's like it grows there naturally and whatnot. And it's beautiful. It's really quite beautiful, but it has a really awful history that was more or less forgotten. So back in 1940, just 2 years before the Korean War officially began, there was a Jeju uprising, and there was a huge massacre that took 30,000 lives out of this anti-communist massacre that you know, the Korean government, in collusion with the American armed forces, sort of started out in order to root out communists. And what's so tragic about this story is that there were so many people in that 30,000 who had absolutely no idea that there was a political tension. You know, like there are shots in the film when people are holding guns to them and saying, you know, are you a commie? And they're like, what is a commie? And then they get shot and killed, you know? So yeah, this is a really like hidden sort of repressed history that the Korean government is also completely ashamed about, so they don't really talk about it. But this film was made in 2012, and you know, the point of the filmmaker, the reason why he made this film was for an activist cause. And in this film, Potatoes has, I guess like potatoes are like war food, but we're not in a state of war, right? So it's like food that you have when you're a refuge somewhere. So in this scene, you see all these people, they're inside a cave. So they're trying to avoid, you know, the soldiers coming out to get them, and they sit in the cave and just sort of bide their time. And then in this scene, you see this woman. I mean, she's the only woman here, but she brought a sack of potatoes with her and just shares it with them. So there's this communal sort of sharing that goes on, and potatoes is sort of this reliable comfort food that they have together. But again, it's the woman who's providing, right? There's a moment when she asks the men, like, why didn't you guys bring it? You all came empty-handed, you know, but she shares her potatoes with them. And I don't think that was, you know, I mean, I don't think that was a coincidence. I'm pretty sure that was done deliberately.
아이고 계란 이거 무슨 거 먹을 거과 먹을 거면 풀어 없어.
아이고 이건 모르는 거 주시면은.
고추.
아니 걔네잖아. 지네 올 땐 빈손으로 와오네.
에이, 검사는 인생 아닐 거게.
아이 그러면 나가 이거 지시 쏠망 거 시키다가 이거 하나씩.
이거 맞지?
챙겼어.
아이고 어떻게 지술 가지고 어디가? 아이고 야 삼촌. 아이고 아이고
막잘 쏘.
아이고 고맙다야.
너희 여봉 최고야.
아이 언제 막 잘 먹다 이거.
잘 먹고 해.
자꾸 고생한 자. 아이고 지술 많 좋다. 아이고.
네.
있다.
응?
아이고
걔도 숫자 모자라냐 아니요?
이거
어수가 삼촌 이거
갈랑 먹어 사준대.
나는 드십시오. 아야 먹어. 누게 모자라? 누가
아니 누기가 덜 내본 생이라.
지?
이거 덜 내더라.
So potatoes here, you know, again, they're not in a state of war yet, right? It's just 2 years before the war, but this is still in a period of Cold War, right? The global Cold War. So the Soviet Union and the United States are really paranoid over like other countries taking different alliances, okay? And because of that paranoia from the U.S. and Soviet Union, countries like Korea are like killing one another, right? So in this state of tragedy, potatoes takes on this, you know, yeah, it's like refugee food, but it's also food of comfort. It's something they eat when you don't have rice because they're on the road. You know, they can't just take like a thing of rice and go with them. You know, they have to just take a bunch of potatoes and move along. So yeah, again, potatoes has this meaning of like crisis, something that you comfort yourself in a state of crisis. So we're going back with potatoes, right? We're sort of regressing with potatoes in 2010. So yeah, I mean, I just thought that was interesting. And Darcy Packett, who is he's a film critic, Korean film critic, he says that Omer's film is a reimagining and reassessment of Korea's traumatic recent history, and that she said continues the activist tradition through cinema. Especially again because the Jeju massacre is a little known history even in Korea. And I found it interesting how potatoes is sort of like, yeah, like it has this traumatic meaning of trauma around it. Now I want to talk about a sitcom. This came out in 2013 and lasted about a year. It's on this cable channel called TVN in Korea. It's called 감자별, Potato Star, and it's like such a strange comedic television program. But the premise is this: there's a comet that is headed towards Earth, but it stops midway. It gets caught up in the orbit of the moon or whatever. So you have the moon and you have this giant comet that's like also dangling there because it stopped midway, right? And what's funny about this is that the potato-shaped comet, you can see it very, very closely. It's like way closer than the moon, right? There are images of this. And I just thought, you know, that's really interesting because it looks like you always have this impending doom that's like hanging over you, right? I mean, again, this is a sitcom, right? This is comedy. And yet you have this very terrifying, scary thing that's like looming in the sky and people can't do anything about it. And in episode 8 and 9 of the show, when the comet is like heading towards the Earth and everybody's like screaming and panicking and they're watching the news and they're like, what do we do? What was really funny about the question that kept coming up over and over again was, immediately, whenever anybody saw a panic around, the first question that they would ask is, what happened? Did a war erupt? Okay, they would immediately go to that question, which I found so funny. I'm like, why would you just go directly to that? You know, why not? Like, and it could be a tsunami, or it could be an earthquake, or it could be a fire, it could be some kind of natural disaster, right? But they immediately say, did a war erupt? Right? I mean, if you think about it, it's like, that's what South Korea and the rest of the world deals with all the time, right? Thinking about North Korea and their nuclear weapons, right? Because South Korea and North Korea, I mean, they ceased fire in 1953, but they never signed a peace treaty, right? Technically, you know, you're standing in South Korea and you can see North Korea right there, but they could attack you at any time, you know? I mean, they're so close and yet they're so far, right? So this comet has a very significant allegorical meaning. You know, they're staring at this terrifying doom that could create an apocalypse at any time, always. But South Korea has to go on with its daily life without thinking about it. Isn't that funny? I mean, I would show you the clip, but it's, you know, it's not that important. So I want to move on to this. This was a Vox article, and Vox conducted an interview with journalist Hye-yeon Kang, and they asked Hye-yeon. This was during when, like, Donald Trump was, like, you know, like, saying all these threatening, like, macho things and saying, like, you know, North Korea is nothing to us, blah, blah, blah. And the tension was really building up. And a lot of Koreanist scholars and, I mean, the whole world was pretty much panicking. You know, it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, don't provoke these people. The journalist, you know, when she was asked, I mean, how is South Korea dealing with this? The rest of the world is freaking out. How is South Korea dealing with this? And Kang said, well, South Koreans aren't freaking out. They're not, you know, panicking or anything. And she said it's because indifference has been normalized there. Indifference has been normalized. The threat of an attack from North Korea, right? Because if North Korea were to, you know, send nuclear, you know, like missiles over that way, I mean, South Korea is the most vulnerable, right? They're the closest. They're on the same peninsula, right? And so she says that indifference has been normalized. And it's normalized in this way. For instance, every South Korean man in South Korea needs to go and serve in the military for 2 years because there's a conscription law, right? Because technically North and South Korea are still in a state of war. So normalization happens through things like that. Something that men say, this is my duty to the state, I need to do it. But it's not just the men who are involved. Mothers have to send their sons away, right? Girlfriends have to say goodbye for 2 years and hope that their relationship will last. Wives need to say goodbye, their kids need to say goodbye. Little boys have to watch older men in their family go away for 2 years and wonder what is that about, you know? And being in the military isn't fun, right? It's physically, mentally, emotionally very painful, right, for 2 years. And a lot of men have a problem with this because they're like, well, women don't need to do this, so they kind of progress in society. They get to move up the ladder. They get to continue their education. They don't have to have their lives interrupted, but the men do. So there's a lot of disdain and bitterness when it comes to this conscription service. So the concept of war, impending war that can erupt at any time, is normalized among South Koreans. And I think that's why in Potato Star, the minute you see panic, people immediately ask, is there a war, right? Because South Koreans, yeah, indifference has been normalized, but they don't forget. You know, and the Korean War wasn't that long ago, right? It was in 1953 when they ceased fire. So, yeah, this potential war aspect is always there. And see, like, this is a clip, I mean, a still, but you can see how close it is to the people here that are looking up. So Potato Star, I'm saying, is about the absurdity of going on with your life while disaster is constantly hanging over you, right? It's very visible, but it's totally out of your reach. It's impossible to touch, just like North Korea. It's very visible, but it's totally out of your reach. And I think this is a really excellent visual metaphor. And I don't know if the creators meant for this to be there or not. I mean, maybe, you know, if they meant it, then I think it's quite brilliant. I want to talk about North Korea just a little bit, and I know that there is a lecture scheduled about North Korea and the Potato Revolution, but I don't know about North Korea's Potato Revolution that much, but this is a really interesting film, so I want to talk about it. It's called Oh Youth. It came out in 1994. It's directed by Jung, and it is a comedy from North Korea. Yeah, and it's on YouTube actually with the English subtitles. So if you ever want to get into it, you know, it's available online. And I just want us to take a look at this clip. It's a bit long, so bear with me, but just try and take it in, just indulge yourselves, and just check this out for a bit.
여보, 이만하면 된 것 같구만. 에?
내가 그만할 때까지 좀 더 깎으시라요. 좀 지그시 앉아서. 깎기 시작한 때로부터 단위 시간이.
뭐 단위 시간? 아 이걸 좀 보기나 하고 더 깎으라 어쩌라 지령을 내리구려. 이 많은 걸 누가 다 먹겠다고 더 깎으라 더 깎으라.
아 오늘은 경기관 합숙에서 우리 딸들이 우르르 몰려오는 날이 아니나요.
아차. 아 내일이 일요일이지? 더 깎자. 여보, 그 청춘거리 체육촌에 취재 나갔던 우리 신문사 기자가 그러는데 우리 딸들이 뭐나 다 뛰어난다는만. 요 기술도 그래, 인물도 그래.
이거 또 딸 자랑이 시작된다.
에이그, 우리 집에서야 딸 자랑밖에 더 할 게 있어?
예?
놓친 내 자랑을 할 때도 뭐 할 게 있어야 하지.
아니면 누가 내 자랑을 해달라고? 남들이 들으면 이 집엔 아들은 없고 맨 딸만 우글우글 하는 집인 줄 알겠어.
뭐라고?
아들 하나 있다는 게 소론이 다 넘도록 장가 못 보낸 걱정은 안 하고 무슨 딸 자랑만 계속.
총각은 나이 들수록 끈값이야. 걱정은 무슨 걱정. 대학 초등 졸업생이다. 역사 연구사겠다. 이번에 학위 논문까지 성공하면야.
여보, 당신도 우리 유원지 와서 잠깐 앉아보시오. 난 처녀 청학들이 쌍을 지어 산보하는 걸 보면 우리 기호도 꽃 같은 처녀를 왜 후려가지고 못 다니는가 하는 생각이.
말이 많다.
이건 뭐가 모자라는지 후리기는 거사하고 후리우지도 못하니.
아직은 이 서두르자라도 일 없어.
서둘러야 합니다.
기호도 바빠하지 않는데 뭘 자기가 바빠서?
아니, 내가 바빠하지 않다니요. 서둘러야 해요.
뭐?
늦었는데.
늦었다?
보시구려. 당사자도 참다 못해서 이젠 서둘러야 한다고 말하는 걸.
야, 이 녀석아. 너 아무리 바쁘다 하더라도 제 애비 앞에서 늦었다, 바쁘다 이런 말을 탕탕.
그럼 어찌겠어요. 저녁에 학습당 박사 선생님한테 가서 참고도서를 넘겨받게 했는데.
뭐? 학습당?
야, 네 나이 이제 몇인지 아니? 30살이다, 30살. 장가갈 생각은 안 하고 밤낮 대학습당 난 파묻혀서.
어머니, 지금 20대, 30대 박사, 준박사가 나올 걸 요구하는데 장가가는 게 뭐가 바빠서 그래요. 학위 논문을 통과시키기 전에 아예 장가 소리는 입 밖에 내지도 말라요.
여보, 우리 아드님이 바로 저렇스다.
큰일을 하겠다는 거야. 좋은 일이지 뭘. 뭔 별 걱정을. 여보. 딸랑 소리가 2번 울렸지?
예, 2번 누르고 보니 이여기에다.
우리 역기 선수가 왔구나. 이여가 아버지 나간다.
아버지!
어서 들어오너라. 어서. 아이고, 야야.
아버지가 왜 이렇게 가벼워졌어요?
그건 내 힘이 더 세졌으니까 이 아버지가 가벼울 수밖에. 야, 내려놔라. 나 저 감자를 깎아야 한다.
감자요? 아버지, 아버진 여기 지그시 앉아 계시라요. 저 감자는 내가 다 깎을 테니. 어머니?
Okay, that's it. But did you notice how many shots and close-ups there were of potatoes? There were so many, and these same potatoes, like very frequent. Tatiana Garusenko. It's about the potato revolution of the DPRK. You can find this in the Korea journals, published in 2016. So during the Great Famine in North Korea, which began in 1994 and lasted until 1998, the North Korean government had to make some changes. Okay, so everybody was starving. Russia cut off their funding, and so North Korea was just like, I mean, what do we do? We can't feed our people rice. Okay, but they realized, okay, well, what is our fallback crop? Okay, potatoes. Like less labor, less maintenance. Like let's feed them potatoes. However, North Koreans had a very lousy concept of potatoes. Like potatoes, like the poor man's food. Potatoes, the European people's food, like foreigners' food. So in the 90s, in the mid 90s, the DPRK really had to revitalize or rebrand potatoes for North Koreans. Okay, so there was like movies like this where they would just put in potatoes as much as they could, and they just really rebranded potatoes, and they said that potatoes are the nation's crop, which is insane because potatoes are not native to South Korea. And this is a cartoon show for children, okay? And it's like really like mind-blowing. So you have this guy named Round Potato, this guy here, and the other crops like the corn and like grains, and they're like, who is that guy? I don't know who that is. And this guy says, I'm here, I'm actually very resilient to diseases and such. And so you can see like at this clip down here, like all the pollution and diseases and whatnot, they're just like marching forward, you can see that they're all lined up like militantly. And it's really interesting. And the title of this cartoon is The Potato That Came to Hyunggi-gor. And like the potato and its army like fights diseases, agrarian farm diseases. And the moral behind this cartoon show is to cherish potatoes for being low maintenance and for being a very resilient produce. And here I have a list of all these other shows and films that are dedicated to this rebranding of potatoes. And they have this song, which is like an awesome song. So I'll play some of it for you. But this is, again, it's for children to hear. It's called Daeungdan Gamja, or Daeungdan Potato. And it's like got lyrics like, look how humongous the potatoes are from this region, from our local region, and it's very filling, and you can't eat the whole potato, it's like very, very filling, and how good the potato is. So those are the lyrics, and I just want to show you a clip of it because I find it quite interesting. So enjoy this.
둥글둥글 왕감자 태훈단 감자 너무 커서 하나를 못 담겠죠. 예하 감자 감자 왕감자 참 매사요 못 담겠죠. 햇살처럼 맛있는 태훈단 감자 엎뿌리도 뒷뿌리도 많이 심었죠. 예하 감자 감자 왕감자 참 매사요.
So yeah, the lyrics again, it's just cherishing the potato, really like selling it to you, and again they cherish it and they make it sound as if this is like a national produce, which is really interesting, right? And the potato revolution, this lasted until about 2007-2008, until the DPRK was able to gain economic stability. And now potatoes, they're not the main crop of North Korea anymore. They're back to eating rice now. And so now potatoes have taken on this nostalgic, sentimental dimension for North Koreans. And what came as a result of this, and this is what Garusenko says or argues, she says that North Korea was able to, they really learned how to become savvy marketers after this potato revolution. They knew how to market beer or ginseng or anything. They just became like pretty much like savvy capitalist marketers after this revolution. And I thought that was quite interesting, that North Korea learned how to promote consumerism after this massive starvation. And sentiment and nostalgia is also in South Korea. So does anybody watch like Korean variety shows like Infinite Challenge? Yeah, like one person, right? But it's a really popular variety show program. It's unfortunately it's going to end this month, and I'm very sad about it. But there was a spin-off which was an all-female cast called One Girls, or Infinite Girls, and that lasted from 2007 to 2013. And you see that, Song Eun-hee, who's this very famous Korean comedian, she's here with Hango, her cast member, and they're in a countryside, right? I mean, they're urban women, they're urban soul-like women, they're very, you know, prestigious, like, media personalities, but they're in, like, the countryside, they're, like, finding potatoes, they're boiling it, they're, like, roasting it, they're creating a fire, and they're trying to create this sort of, like, nostalgic, rural agrarian feel for viewers at home. And it's interesting how somebody says here, like, you know, they had overboiled the potatoes because they're not, like, good with, like, controlling the fire or whatever, just to show that these women are urban women, they're not from the rural land. They overboil the potatoes, and Tongin danced to a woman, and she says, like, I mean, why are potatoes so sad, you know? And she says it like a joke, she's being facetious, but I thought there was something really charming and interesting about that, because potatoes, again, back in the 1920s story, right, it represented a woman's sorrow, right? And so when somebody says that, there's underlying meaning there, depending on how you read it.
나 지금 너무 더워. 언니. 너무 열악해. 언니가 원망스러운 아니야? 왜 그럴까 생각해봐. 너 그런 소리 하지 마. 칭찬 줄 알아 사람들. 야, 촬영했는데 장보라 기자님이 물어보더라야. 진짜 감자 우리가 캐고 불 붙이고 진짜 우리가 다 할 줄 몰랐어. 야, 이제 몇 개월 됐으면 적응해야지. 적응할 만 하다가도 아 근데 너무 슬퍼. 감자는 왜 이렇게 슬플까?
Yeah, so, I mean, up until now, right, potatoes represented like trauma, suffering, sorrow. And in comedy, you have this very practical, cathartic, you know, comedy is that practical, cathartic method or mode that we use in order to recover or overcome our trauma, right? So I thought this was really poignant how we can see this arc, you know, from the 1920s to present day, and it's, you know, we've overcome that trauma, we've overcome that difficulty, you know, we can laugh at our past, we can laugh and enjoy potatoes as a nostalgic and sentimental thing. And yeah, so comedy is basically the cathartic recovery of trauma and sorrow. This is my last slide. Does anyone watch the show Ask Us Anything or 아는 형님, Men on a Mission? Oh, some of you, yeah. It's on Netflix too. And Super Junior's Kim Chul, who knows Super Junior? You. Yeah, so Super Junior's Kim Chul, when he first went to SM, he, you know, was like more or less like a country boy, right? He had like a weird like accent, like a weird dialect. In this clip, he's sort of poking fun at himself. And again, this is like comedy working as this catharsis of trauma and, you know, like ruralness. It's basically potatoes and ruralness is a past thing. Like South Korea is now, we're like you know, one of the dominating forces, you know, one of the biggest economies in the world, and, you know, we're kicking ass, so we can talk about how we used to eat potatoes and be these bumpkin boys back in the day. So it has this nostalgic and sentimental dimension, and they can laugh at themselves, and again, comedy is really like a recovery of trauma of some sort here.
너무 듣기 쉬워. 혜철아, 너 가수 처음 할 때 어떻게 갔어, SM?
나 강원도에서 서울 버스 타고 올라와서
강원도에서 감자.
야 어디요? 야 SM 어디요? 진짜 친구 3명이랑 서울 구경하러 왔다가 야 어디가 SM이요? 야 어디요? 아 진짜로 리얼 인터넷에 있어. 시간도 1시간 정도 지각을 해서 그래서 아 오디션 끝났습니다. 안 되는데.
근데 보따리 뭐 싸웠나?
그래서
보따리
오디션 해줄 캐스팅 누나가 안 되는데 그건 뭐예요? 그래 네 감점 궁금한데.
So Kim is able to tell this, you know, I mean, when he starts out, when any K-pop idol starts out as a trainee, they go through brutal training, right? They're like, you know, like they're living apart from their families. They're often starved, you know, forced to diet. They have to train for many, many hours throughout the day, and you know, even trying to get an audition is this, you know, really like impossible dream, right? And Kim has the luxury now to kick back and sort of reflect on the times when, you know, when potato was this like valuable thing to him, and now it's not, right? I mean, he's Super Junior is known throughout the world, and even the show is, you know, like not broadcast, but is streamed all around the world. So at this point in time, potatoes and what they represent are funny because South Korea's past traumas of war, poverty, and suffering seem so distant. And in South Korea, potatoes retain that nostalgic quality, but its associations with bumpkin or country folk, and and the fact that it's an item of poverty amuses modern urbanists and soul in the 21st century. And so, yeah, that's more or less my presentation and how the potato will evolve in the future in Korean media that has yet to come. So thank you so much for listening. And if you guys are interested in checking out the book, it's both on HumperStar.com and on Amazon. Thank you so much for your time.